I'd like to do something a little bit radical tonight. And for those of you who have been practicing with me for a long time, please don't panic. So what I'd like everybody to do is actually just relax a little bit, and actually if you can turn to face me while I'm speaking, that would be really great. I've never done this before, so this is unusual. It's a night of firsts, I guess. I get feedback from people. I've been teaching Zen for a few years. I've been practicing for more than a few years. And sometimes things recur over time, over years. And at first it's easy to sort of just, especially in a tradition like this, it's easy to kind of just write them off. What's that about? This past weekend, I had there was a member that approached me and said, this culture that we've got, where you give a talk and we all just sort of look at the floor and don't move and don't make any sound, is really weird. And it's kind of really Japanese, and I don't know if it really serves you well for getting this teaching across. And I've certainly heard that before. This is the way that I was trained. But this weekend I had a really interesting realization or observation. And that was I came from a tradition. I was trained in a tradition of Zen and in a culture, in a Sangha, where the model of having the Roshi, the teacher, speak, and you don't move. You don't respond. You don't shift. This was the culture. Not just in the sutra hall, but that was a great metaphor for the whole culture of the organization. And many of you know that I've had lots of issues with that organization. Much of what we practice here comes from my experience in that organization, and it's been a great challenge for me to discern which aspects of that are valuable aspects of practice and which aspects of that are just craziness. So this is something that I'm going to experiment with. Another thing that I mentioned to this member was, I can see that, and I'm really tired of telling jokes that don't get laughs, because I tell the joke and everyone goes, hoo, hoo, and that's it. It's no fun. The other thing I had a conversation with my wife about was that we do have a culture in Zen West, and it's a very strict culture. And there's an aspect of it that I really love, this discipline, self-discipline, strict culture. But I think that there's also an aspect of that culture which is just profoundly unhealthy, particularly when it combines with sort of a self-perception that many of us carry that we just aren't good enough. We can come into a place like a Zen center for our first time, never having sat before, and we can see the master, the teacher, sitting on his seat, legs all twisted up in whatever posture. And we have this strange thing that goes off in our brain where we go like, that's the way I need to sit. That's the right way to sit. And so even never having done it before, we burden ourselves with this idea like, I should be sitting like a pro by now. And if we make a mistake and somebody corrects us, even if it's the nice, you're supposed to do it like this, we get all like, I'm so stupid! And this is just really crazy. So I pulled out the chair, and I was talking to my wife about it, and I said, and I tell people all the time, relax about it, you're not expected to be perfect the whole time through, and if you need a chair, you can use a chair. And I thought, maybe I should get people who will sit in a chair in the Zendo so that it kind of makes it okay for people to sit in chairs. And Nikki looked at me and said, you sit in a chair. And I thought, no. I'll have people do that, not me. So this period of Zazen we just did, I've been practicing for 20 years, and that's the first period of Zazen I've ever done sitting in a chair. Right? Oh, yes, thank you. Yeah, no, it's, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Genjo, who's coming this weekend for our intensive, he often uses this phrase. He says, you need to be the master of your own practice. And this is a very important thing for us all to consider. This tradition comes from a time and from a culture in which people grow up sitting on the floor. And they sat on the floor for almost their entire lives, as much of it as they could. It was just the common practice. So for somebody to go from a culture of sitting in their living room on the floor to a monastery where they're sitting on a platform on the floor cross-legged, it's not that big a stretch. And yet we sort of can expect the same thing in our own culture, where for the most part we stop sitting in a chair around age 5. Start going to school, start sitting in desks. And we stop doing anything that sort of keeps the flexibility of our hips up. I love sitting on the floor, and actually I have to say, after years of doing it, I'm finding sitting in a chair really uncomfortable, but maybe it's good medicine, I don't know. But each of us, a big part of Zen practice is really coming to terms with who we are, where we are in our lives, and the circumstances that we're experiencing at that moment. I came to practice early, in my early 20s, and after a background of martial arts and all that, I was very flexible and physically strong. But certainly now I'm in my 40s, and I still feel pretty strong. But certainly I feel age a little bit, and I feel like, particularly with some of the practices that we do, I start to feel my knees a little bit, and I sort of say, I may not be able to sit like this for till I drop dead. And that's a real struggle for me. Coming in here and sitting on a chair it was a big struggle for me to sort of say, is this a good thing to do? Is this a good example to set? Is this what I want to do? And I think that was an option for me. For me to sit in a chair tonight was totally optional. I could choose to do it. Lately, I've had some conversations with older people in the community and people who have had some physical problems. And it's particularly challenging when it's not an option, where you want to sit on the floor, but there's a physical problem or difficulty that just makes it impossible. And we want to be young forever, and we want to be healthy forever. But this is one of the fundamental teachings of Buddhism. It's not always going to be so. So how do we confront and how do we deal with the passage of time, our own physical limitations, and our own eventual illness, old age, and death? Well, this is something that we can do every time we come into the Zendo, every time that we practice, and every time that we're with one another. We have this opportunity to say, who am I in this moment? Not who do I wish I was, or who was I, or who am I going to be when I lose this 20 pounds, or start being able to lift so much, or when my legs are able to... No, who am I in this moment? In our practice, we need to find an edge. We need to find the edge between where we are... the Buddha, in his first sermon, really talked about the middle way, that which lies between the indulgence in sense pleasures and getting swept up in harsh ascetic practices. And this is something that we can do in the Zendo every night. We can come in and say, I don't feel like sitting on the ground, crossing my legs and sitting up. I think I'll set myself up with 8 cushions and get the lazy recliner and, just sit. Or we can also come into the Zendo and say, I am going to be the ultimate Zen And then the whole evening, we're actually not doing any meditation whatsoever. We're just like some kind of Klingon warrior manliness test or something like that. Each of us has to find this middle way. And the important thing to remember is that that middle way isn't a fixed place. As we go through our lives, that middle way changes. What we can do from moment to moment changes. When we're ill, we can't do what we do when we're healthy. When we start to become healthy again, it's important for us to press into that a little bit so that we're maintaining that edge of clarity which lies between being absolutely comfortable and being absolutely over the line with a bunch of physical discomfort, emotional discomfort, difficulty and pain. I had a conversation today with a woman who got interested in Zen and went and sat a couple of times at a Zen center, and then it was recommended that she should go to Japan and sit sesshin. And when I heard this, I thought, wow, people are crazy. I don't know why anyone would ever recommend doing that. Because this is turning Zen practice, which is fundamentally the practice of the middle way, into an ascetic practice. How much meditation do you do when you're literally sitting for 14 hours a day going, ouch! None at all. None at all. So each of us has to be the master of our own practice. And I'm sitting here in a chair because I say with my mouth a lot, if you need a chair, sit in a chair. But the message I give with my body is, sit on the ground. It's okay to sit in a chair. If you need a chair, sit in a chair. If we're doing a practice, we're very careful in Zen West, actually, really trying to help people move along the path little bit by little bit. When you've done some Tuesdays and you want to do a little bit more, maybe come and try a Sangha Sunday, which is the same format, but the periods are longer. Try to establish a daily practice so that that's not such a stretch. You want to sort of be like, ooh, that's kind of stretchy, but not like, oh, get me out of here. Once you've done a few of those, if you want to do a bit more, you can do a bit more. Our regular Sundays are 3 hours long. You know, we have some more chanting and more walking and a longer talk and interview opportunity, and you should feel kind of stretchy after the end of that. But again, not like, Ooga! If you want to do more than that, we can do a one-day intensive, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Those are stretchy, but they shouldn't be overwhelming. If you want to do more than that, you can do 3 days of an intensive. Or if you want to do more than that, you can do 7 days of an intensive. Or if you want to do more than that, you can come and live at the Zen Center and become a monk, and that'd be great. Kokai's building a hermitage, so you can come and join us. But always, we want to keep our practice in the middle way. It should be in this zone where we're feeling stretched, pressed against it, but not like it's a survival mode. You don't want to be switching into this sort of survival mode. Awesome. Eshu's been talking. I'm going to get... Okay, good. This is good. I was sitting here like this, and I always have this memory. We chant at the end of the sit, we chant the final instructions of Daito. And now Daito, if you read this chant, it's kind of this exhortation, like, work hard, but the story of Daito is that he had really bad arthritis in his hips, and he basically, for the last, 30 years of his life, he never sat cross-legged. He always sat in a chair, and there's these great pictures of him sitting there with these curly-toed slippers that I just think are really cool. And so I kind of sat here feeling like I was in good company with Daito. So this has been a very big experiment for me, and presses me up against all kind of my own comfort zones. To have you all looking at me while I'm giving a talk is very strange to me. So I appreciate you being just kind of as still as you can be, but comfortable still. This Zen Center, Zen West, we call it, we have this sort of motto to make Zen come alive. And this is really a big part of my job as abbot. I was trained by a Japanese master in what's really considered kind of like the Marines of Zen. And my job is to sort of take the depths of those teachings and bring them to life for people here, in this room and in this center and in this city. So sometimes I'm slow to listen to feedback. Sometimes I need to hear the feedback a few times before I can really hear it. But I just want to really encourage you to continue to practice together, to continue to practice with me, and to continue this interchange, this back and forth that we have in this Zen practice, where we are practicing together. I'm not an enlightened Buddha with light. Oh, it's actually the light's coming from there. I'm just the person who's been doing practice, and I enjoy doing that practice with you, and I look forward to doing practice for many years to come. Thank you.